So our final speaker of the evening is Secretary Julian Castro.
All right, y'all. I'm going to move this out of the way if you'll let me. All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, first of all, I want to say a big thank you, gracias, to Ted and to your county chair, Jen Bauer, and also to Maddie, that I know helped organize this. Thank y'all very much for having me, and also, of course, Senator Harris and Governor Hickenlooper and everybody that's spoken to y'all tonight. I'm Julian Castro. I feel like I need a name tag these days, because some of y'all may know that I have a twin brother, Joaquin. And Joaquin's in Congress. He represents the 20th Congressional District of Texas, which is basically half of San Antonio. But he goes around telling people that I'm a minute uglier than he is. That's not true. Y'all may see him on CNN or MSNBC, and he's growing a beard these days. So if you see him, tell him that with that beard, he definitely looks a minute uglier than me. I've been here in Iowa the last couple of days, but this is not the first time I've been here. It was great to see J.D. Scholten. I saw him yesterday and the day before that. I spent a lot of time here during 2018 campaigning with folks like J.D., with Cindy Axney, with some of the folks that were running for statewide office. Congratulations to the Iowa Democrats for great wins, especially 3 out of 4 congressional representatives here in the state. And there's one left. One left. 2 days ago, I was in Iowa, I was in Des Moines, and doing an interview at the ABC affiliate, Channel 5, in Des Moines. And I got there for my interview at about 3:30, and who was there but Steve King? Now, we had a very pleasant 2-minute conversation about nothing. But it was a reminder to me that he does not represent the values of Iowa. And just know that everybody outside of Iowa knows that. My brother Joaquin and I grew up with my mother and my grandmother. My grandmother had come to San Antonio in 1922 when she was 7 years old with her younger sister because their parents had passed away right after the Mexican Revolution. And her closest relatives lived in San Antonio. She never finished elementary school, so she worked as a maid, a cook, and a babysitter. And she raised my mom as a single parent. My mom raised my brother and me as a single parent after the age of 8 when our parents split up. And Joaquin and I went to the public schools of San Antonio and then had the opportunity to go to college and go to law school and come back home and become attorneys, the first professionals in our family, and also to get elected to public service. I got elected to the city council in San Antonio when I was 26 years old. My brother got elected to the state house when he was 28. I served for 4 years on the San Antonio City Council, and then I ran for mayor and lost a close race. I came back 4 years later and became mayor of San Antonio. I know that we have folks here who have been to San Antonio because y'all just went to the Alamo Bowl. And they told me that San Antonio was nice enough to provide as much Busch beer as y'all needed. Right? I served for 5 years as mayor of San Antonio until I got a call from President Obama in 2014. And I remember the date was April 16th, 2014, because it's not every day that the president calls you and asks you if you want a job. I had just gone through the drive-thru at Panda Express. And the phone, you know how sometimes the phone says blocked or unknown or whatever, it said private. I answered the phone and it was the president on the other line. I ended up taking on the role of Secretary of Housing and Urban Development of HUD for the last 2.5 years of the administration. And during that time, I had the chance to travel to 100 different communities, big and small, in our nation, in 39 different states, to get a sense of the hopes and the dreams and the challenges and the opportunities that Americans face. I'm running for president because I think it's time for new energy and new leadership. Because I feel very blessed with the opportunity that I've had in life, like I bet a lot of y'all do. And because I want to make sure that in the years to come, the same opportunities that were there for me, a kid that grew up in the public schools in Texas, can be there for anybody, no matter who they are or where they live or what they look like. I'm running because I believe that in the 21st century, that our great nation needs to be the smartest, the healthiest, the fairest, and the most prosperous nation on earth. I believe that if we're going to be the smartest nation on earth, that we need to start early by investing in universal pre-K education for all of our children. When I was mayor of San Antonio, we ran a ballot initiative called Pre-K for SA. It was asking the voters of the city, and San Antonio is now the 7th largest city in the United States, it's 1.5 million people. We asked the voters to raise the sales tax by 1/8 of a cent to expand high-quality full-day pre-K for 22,000 4-year-olds over 8 years, from 2013 through 2020. And some people said that we were crazy because we were in Texas, and oftentimes, as you all know, we're good at investing in things, in roads and bridges and airports, in stadiums, but not oftentimes as good about investing in people. And even though San Antonio is a big city, we didn't control the school districts. In fact, we had 15 different independent school districts in our city. But what I had seen was that San Antonio ranked a lot lower than most places, most communities of its size when it came to educational achievement, and that we needed to turn that around. I got together folks from the business community and education and community leaders, and we put together a plan to make this investment in early childhood education. And on election night, I bet a lot of y'all like me, you watch the results. Sometimes I have 6 or 7 tabs open of the state, elections office or the clerk, and the early vote came in, and it was 50.02 for and 49.98 against. But ultimately, 53% of the voters of San Antonio said yes to pre-K for our 4-year-olds. And because of that, that city has one of the best pre-K programs in the country. I also believe that if we're going to be the smartest nation on earth, we need to improve public education. First of all, that's the best thing that we can do, is invest in our public school system in this country by paying teachers what they deserve, by reducing class sizes, by making sure that no matter what the needs of a student are, that individual can get a good education wherever they go. I also see very clearly that today the United States is competing with countries around the world that are rising, that are producing tons and tons of young people in places like China and India, that are creative and ambitious and intelligent, and are driving ideas and companies and movements that are going to set progress in the years to come. And that in this world, in this 21st century, in order to compete with that, we don't have a single person to waste in our country. That means that we need to make higher education universal in the United States. So that if somebody wants to go to a state university or a community college or an apprenticeship program or certification training, that they can do that tuition-free. And I know because I've heard this, that sometimes folks say, well, that's just free stuff. You're giving away free stuff. But I would ask the folks who went through college in the 50s or the 60s to remember that there was a time in this country where many of our state university systems were either tuition-free or almost tuition-free, including in my neck of the woods of Texas. People will tell you that it was $50 a credit hour per semester. So this is nothing radical. It's nothing that we didn't have a commitment to before. But as I said, today, in the competition that we face around the world, and also here at home, where we have inequality that is growing and we have jobs that require more skill than ever, we actually need to do it more now than we did back then. If we want to be the healthiest nation on earth, it means that we need a different healthcare system. And I think my staff is worried that I'm going to fall off of this thing. I'm not. I'm backing up. The grandmother that I grew up with had diabetes. And I remember being a kid, and she would go off in the afternoon, and she would inject herself in another room, you know, with insulin. And before she passed away in 1996, she had one of her feet amputated, which, as you all know, is very common for people who have severe diabetes. And she died of complications related to that. But through all of that, she had Medicare. And thank God that she did. I want to make sure that we strengthen Medicare, not weaken it, for everybody that's on it. And also that we have Medicare for all in this country, so that no matter who you are, you can get good health care. Not health insurance, health care when you actually need it. And if somebody wants to have a supplemental plan or their own private health insurance, I believe that that's okay, that they should be able to. But what I don't believe is that the profit motive of drug companies or of insurance companies should ever dictate whether one single human being in this country is able to get health care when they need it. If we're going to be the fairest nation on earth, we need to reform our justice system so that no matter who you are, no matter what the color of your skin is, no matter what your last name is, what your faith is, how much money you have or don't have, that you're innocent until proven guilty. And that you don't have to sit behind bars, not convicted yet of any crime, because you can't afford $200 or $300 or $500 for bail. I also believe that no matter who you are, whether you wear a hijab or you wear a Star of David around your neck or the color of your skin is black, that you should be able to walk in your neighborhood, in this country, and any other neighborhood, and feel safe in this country. If we're going to be the most prosperous nation in the 21st century, it has to mean prosperity for everybody. What I see out there is that for the last 40 years, we've had a tax system that more and more has rewarded people that are already doing well in this country, and corporations that are getting bigger and bigger. Y'all may have seen the other day that Amazon made billions of dollars last year and didn't pay any federal income taxes, any federal taxes. At the same time, they were getting offered $3 billion to go and locate a second headquarters in New York. We need a tax system that rewards people who are working hard. Folks in the middle class, in the lower middle class, and people who are in poverty right now who are working hard and aspiring to get into the middle class. We need to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next few years. We need to protect a woman's right to choose, because reproductive health care is an economic issue in this country. And we need to reform our immigration system. I visited, during my visit here, I started off in Des Moines, saw Steve King. And then I went to Carroll, and then I was in Denison, and then I went and visited with some farmers in Paulina, and then I went to Orange City. Yeah, I always give it, people have been giving that response like, oh, yeah, I went to Orange City. Then I went to Sioux City. We were in Storm Lake this morning. And Storm Lake is a great example of a place where people of different backgrounds can work together and live together. We can have an immigration system that improves our legal immigration system, which we have to do. There's no reason that people should wait 10 or 15 or 20 years after they've applied. And also understands that we can both have good border security, because every nation in the world is concerned about their borders. We need to have good border security. We're going to have good border security by making smart investments, not a dumb wall. All right? And at the same time, we can compassionately and humanely address the 10 to 11 million people here who are otherwise law-abiding and undocumented by creating an earned path to citizenship in our country. And one of the things that gives me hope is that on Father's Day, I went down to the Ursula Processing Center, which is on the border in McAllen, Texas, one of these places where they were separating children from their families. I went there to join activists that were protesting the administration's policy. And the activists that were there were not all the color of my skin. They were white, they were black, they were Asian American, they were from different places. What brings us together, the values that we share, are more powerful than the division that this administration is trying to fan the flames of. And I believe that we can overcome that division and pass comprehensive immigration reform. Because on January 20th, 2021 at 12:01 p.m., we're going to have a Democratic president, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic House. And the lesson of the past is don't wait. We're not going to wait on health care. We're not going to wait on immigration reform. We're not going to wait on gun control. We're going to go forward. The last thing I'll say is that in this campaign, that I'm not just talking, I'm also leading by example. I'm not taking any money from PACs, corporate or otherwise, because I think that we need to get big money out of politics. I'm not taking any federal lobbyist money in this campaign. We're paying even our interns a $15 minimum wage. I hear the interns piping up. We have a strong policy against sexual harassment, and we're supporting the efforts of our campaign staff to unionize if they want to unionize. So my first test in public service came very early during my tenure as a city councilman. I got into politics at 26. I got a job at a law firm right out of law school, making $100,000. I went out and bought a house, bought a car, started paying off my student loans, $1,000 a month. And then I got elected to the city council, and the city council at that time paid $20 per meeting, or $1,040 a year. So most people had another job. A few months after I got elected, the law firm that I was working for had a client that had a land development deal that they wanted the city council to approve. They wanted to build a golf course over the most sensitive part, the most environmentally sensitive part of our community, called the Aquifer Recharge Zone. San Antonio is the largest community in the United States that relies for its drinking water primarily on an underground aquifer. I had concerns that based on their plan, the fertilizers they were going to use, the pesticides, might compromise the integrity of the drinking water. I wanted to vote against that deal, and my constituents wanted me to vote against it too. But under the professional rules of conduct for lawyers, probably here in Iowa too, certainly in Texas, you can't go against the interests of the client. And so I was stuck. So one day, in January of 2002, I walked into the law firm and I quit my job so that I could vote against that deal. And my house almost went into foreclosure. I had to save it. And, I struggled for a little while, but I had my law degree and I had my own little law firm and then worked for another firm and got back up on my feet. But before I had ever gone into politics, I wondered all the time whether I would have to fundamentally change who I was. You hear that politics can be corrupting or dirty. And I wondered whether you could stay true to who you are and what you believe and still succeed. And what I found in that was a test of whether I was willing to stand up for what I believe. I tell you that story because as president, you have more tests than probably anybody else when it comes to public service. When those tests come, I want you to know that I'm going to make decisions that are in the best interest of our country and you and your family, and not anybody else, not any special interest or anybody who's contributing to a campaign or anybody who just has a small view of the future. We're going to be bigger than that. And I'm just beginning this campaign. I'm going to go to every part of Iowa. And a few days ago, I pledged to go to every single state in our nation. I'm going to be in Idaho and Utah next week. All right? But I'll be back to Iowa. I want to ask for your support. And I know that I'm going to see you again. For those of y'all that do support me, I hope you'll find one of my staff members that are here, or at least sign up so that we can keep in contact with you. This is just the beginning, but I know how it's going to end, this campaign. On January 20th, 2021, Inauguration Day. I look forward to it. And you know, there are a lot of wonderful parts to inauguration, right? Maybe the most sobering part is when you take that oath. But I actually look forward to the part after that, when it's traditional for the incoming president to usher off the outgoing president with a helicopter on the White House lawn. I look forward to my wife Erica and I seeing off Donald Trump and Melania Trump. They're going to go off to New York or to Mar-a-Lago, and I'm going to thank him for his service. And just before he leaves, I'm going to tell him, adios. Thank you very much. Thank you, Iowa. Thank you.